I'm with Hope 2K9, and I do hope we are connecting smooth and quickly here correctly for audio and video and all that jazz. It always takes a second to kind of troubleshoot everything and make sure that we're in good working order. I feel like I'm super close to this video. I'm in a different location today, so I've got to, do you want to look at the water cooler or do you want to look at the frame decorations behind me? It's always a different setup to stream on my laptop. So bear with me here. That's a little bit nicer for me to look at. Thanks so much for being here, though. If you're on the replay and watching, we really appreciate it. We try to archive these to a playlist on our Facebook page. So if this conversation is supportive for you, I encourage you to go back into the archives. You can look at the playlists in our video archives under the videos tab and find many more of these Fix It Fridays because we've been doing this for like 3 years. We had to take a bit of a hiatus a couple times last year in particular, but there are a lot of episodes of Fix It Friday with many different characters and in many cases some helpful reframes and iterations of the same answer that maybe will give you some perspective if you've been dealing with an issue, a constant issue over a long period of time. Please comment and let me know if you can hear me. I would appreciate it. I am not seeing any comments just yet, but I'm going to, again, troubleshoot back and forth here for a second to make sure that everything's groovy before I jump into the nitty-gritty of our content today. We have a lot of questions today, which is awesome. Thank you to you guys for submitting them. We're going to talk about separation anxiety. We're going to talk about some issues of counter surfing with somebody's dog. Hey, Hannah, thanks so much for the comment. That's really helpful that I can see, that you can see in here. Fab. Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you. So yeah, a lot of questions today. Separation anxiety and some comments and reflections from our question submitter about the value of my last live stream on separation anxiety. So only reiterating what I was saying, if it's helpful for you to have free support and to have me riff on a topic that's applicable to you, then I really encourage you to take initiative to go dig into the archives because I've done this so many times, some better than others, but the content is there. And then we're also going to talk about resource guarding. I see as well a question here on how to support a senior dog who's losing their hearing, okay? Couple announcements. Let's start with announcements. We are in flux. If you are not on our mailing list, you may not have received the mailer that I sent out or that my team sent out specific to our Hope for Hounds class. And sorry, I've been off work for a little bit here to move, and I can feel it. I can feel that I'm out of practice. So we've changed locations for the Hope for Hounds class. We lost our rental location, and they sold the property. So we're in search of a new location for our free community class. And if you're brand new to the broadcast, you have no idea what I'm talking about. We offer a monthly class, and we have for several years, that is designed to help serve the community and answer behavior issues and troubleshoot and support people and bring them into community to encourage them to stay the course with difficult dog issues, to keep dogs out of shelters and rescues and in their family homes. And that class is just an enormous part of our fulfillment of our overall core mission. So once a month we host that. It's usually a couple hours long. The whole team is there, so multiple dog trainers are available. Sometimes our colleagues or friends in the community with other specialty skills or resources or products will come and hang out and share benefits with you. And so we're looking for a new location. If there's anybody that has a connection for a location in North County, preferably, we're flexible. We could go a little south or a little north and be okay. We have people who travel from quite far, LA and San Diego. So North County is ideal. We need to be able to have probably at least a dozen parking spots. So, where we've been hosting it the last couple times, we've had street parking or super long, driveway, plenty of parking. We do need to be able to have parking for, a dozen cars probably. So it could be private property. It could be a location that is willing to rent, preferably discount to the nonprofit for us to host there. And then just a large open area. if there's shade, that's ideal too, because in the summer months, it starts to become prohibitive to have class in many parts of the day if it's just too hot. So, it doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be perfect. It could be shade sails, somewhere, or a barn. We could, ideally though, have a nice big, open field, or somebody's fenced in property backyard area. Let me know. Just hit me up. Let me know. You can shoot me an email, Cameron@hope2canine.com, or you can email our admin team through the website. If you can't remember that, just go to the website, hope2canine.com. It's, of course, on all of our pages here linked out. So you can go and send us a note and say, hey, I have a spot for you to consider, or I have a friend who has a spot, and this is kind of what they would need to charge, or it would be free. Just give me some information. One of our awesome community members, Rusty, has a possibility for hosting us in April at his place. So I haven't been able to get in deeper on the details of that, but if we could find something that would be longer term, that would be ideal. So keep me posted. As a result, though, no class this month. Please make sure and tag your friends, let your peeps know. Unfortunately, no class this month because I just moved. I need a little bit of recoup time, and I want to work on finding something that's more permanent for us. So that's an important, what's the word? It's an important update, news. What did I call it? You guys see, my brain is fried. I can't even think of the term that I said. I was going to tell you announcements. That's an important announcement. And then we also have 2 adoptable dogs. So again, if you're not familiar with our program, we train adoptable dogs. And we had a big break in between the last bunch and the current 2, but we've got 2 waiting in the wings. They're about to finish 3 weeks of the training program with trainer Emily, and then they'll go through some proofing with Carrie Ann, and we'll kind of assess them on a little bit deeper level for their people and pet skills. But we have a male dog, a female dog. Male is a boxer, female is a Baja blend, maybe a lab staffy mix of some sort. We don't know. Both are getting appointments with our friend Dr. Nesper pretty soon here for holistic support, particularly because Nala's going to be spayed. And Nala's information is posted to the page today. Bobby, the boxer, will be posted within the next day or 2. More video content coming just to share and show you how they look. But if you can also give us some help with sharing them out, that would be amazing. We do have an adoption fee, but they come trained. You get training. You get lifetime support for that dog. It's the best deal in town. Can't get better than that. All right, so let me go back to our questions, and I'll dive right in, all right? If you're joining us along the way, just please feel free to drop a comment. Let me know that you're there. I sure appreciate it. So Christina sent me a great question and said that the last Fix It Friday really hit home. I'm just going to read a bit of her words here. She said, when it comes to separation anxiety, it gave me some huge clarity. I'd love to get some more specifics on logistics of our issues at this moment. And I think this will be pretty darn relatable for a lot of you. They have a 4-year-old Mixie Terrier. She has anxiety to the point that they almost returned her to the Humane Society until they found our video content. Wow, amazing. Thank you. The specific issues have always been being left alone and being in her kennel, using a prong collar, e-collar, place, exercise, and a lot of work. They got to a place where they could leave her alone without issue. As the story goes, and again, relatable for a lot of you, I'm sure, they got a little lax about the training and separation work, and they're paying for it now. So the old beast is rearing its ugly head. She said that, coupled with the huge dynamic shift in 2020, and the dog has regressed quite far. Hey, Linda, glad you're here, and super cool that you remembered despite the time difference. I'm impressed. A few months ago, Christina says the dog started being needy at bedtime in a covered kennel in the bedroom. She'd need to go out again or drink, etc. So super slowly, the dog is becoming extremely persistent despite being ignored. There's whining, doesn't actually need to go out. You get the idea, kind of like sleep training a toddler, right? Or a 3 or 4-year-old, 4 or 5-year-old who's like, I need a drink. I have to go to the bathroom. I need you to rub my back, read me another book. Okay. So owner would ignore, and after being woken up in the night, it would work half the time to ignore. Then it would be really hard to get them both back to sleep. Fast forward, Dog won't sleep in the kennel at all. Absolutely won't. Cries all night long. Tried ignoring verbal corrections. Unfortunately, the batteries on the e-collar are out. I've been meaning to replace them. Side note, can't help you if you don't take care of the tools, okay? She said that don't have remote tools to correct her, and I want to address the bigger issue of why. I'm currently working on becoming more separate, giving less affection, less eye contact, working on her with the kennel, duration work, treating and feeding her in the crate. These are all great things, by the way. Good job. Finally had to give in and have her sleep outside her kennel in a bed on the floor, and I agonized over giving in, but at some point both of us will go insane without sleep, and I wasn't able to be of any help to her when I was sleep deprived. Hey, I get that. I'm dangerous when I'm sleep deprived. I also suspect a big piece of the puzzle is boredom. Once she was well trained and we were able to have her in our lives in such a seamless and easy way, we forgot about all the work that's been keeping her busy. I'd love help and clarity. Thanks for all you do. Christina, thank you. Really great question. Super comprehensive share. Really kind of you, because you'll help a lot of people. I say this every time. I can't state it enough. When you guys show up and share what you're going through, even if you feel, insecure, anxious, or nervous of what am I going to say, or, how will it look? You help, and you're paying it forward. You're helping relate with so many other people because there's nothing new under the sun. These challenges are so very common. Dog training is about learning to speak a foreign language, and it is about taking responsibility for the fact that there are cultural differences if you go somewhere where there's a different language. This is basically how I want to encourage you guys to look at it, right? If you travel out of the country, nobody speaks the language you do, the customs and the cultures are different, the needs and expectations of what is good manners, respectful, polite, secure, comforting, appropriate, these things are often different than when we're living in our own little bubble of what's normal and natural and appropriate to us. So it is a difficult thing to learn to speak that other language and adjust yourself in the relationship to honor and respect what is needed and what feels loving and supportive to your dog. Now, there's two things that stand out massively to me here. Number one is this e-collar that's not working. So here's the thing that I love to get into, you guys, and I think it's why y'all follow me anyway. It's a process thing. It's the personal responsibility piece for cause and effect and the cumulative stress that we create in our lives or experience in our lives. And when you don't get your tools straightened out and you lax or you let that lapse, and then the frustration for having one bad night, two bad nights, three bad nights, and the compromise that starts to happen, when that all starts to stack up, there is an interest collected on those insults over time. And now you're just upside down, you're underwater, you're in over your head, right? And it feels like it's a long way off to get back to good. The reality is you need to get your freaking collar fixed. You can't leave yourself hanging without the tools that worked in the first place. And the dog knows when those are absent, and she's now completely affirmed that it's worth it to work extra hard to break you down because you're not showing up with consistency and meeting her with the same conversation that you always did that worked, right? So when I see something like this, and again, this is zero shame or blame, right? Nobody here is gonna rag on you, Christina, because we've all done this. I don't know if you guys have heard the story before, but sidebar, I had an issue with my van. I had a minivan. I had an issue with my minivan syncing to my old iTunes. Every time I would get in that car, thank God this has been a while ago now, but every time I would get in that car and turn the car on, it would play a song by Pitbull called Anthem. Now, do me a favor and go look this up sometime on YouTube and just have a little listen for 30 seconds or so, okay? Just have a little listen at how unbelievably obnoxious it is if that song comes on unexpectedly, blasting loud in your vehicle every time you turn your car on. It was some glitch of computer system talking to phone technology to logged into wrong account to, and this song, by the way, you guys, because I know that the question is there, The song ended up on the playlist because it was a joke that my baby sisters and I did a choreographed dance for a gag for our dad's birthday. Unitards and everything, by the way. It was pretty epic. But the song is awful to have blast onto your car every time you turn it on. It could be 12 o'clock at night. You're driving home from a show, or, you've been out to the movies and dinner, and, just go have a listen. Imagine. Okay, every time. I let that irritation, mess, or incomplete, okay, it's an awesome little, aspect of the success principles. The book is great. Go read it. Awesome little nugget of wisdom about creating success in your life, which is to clean up your freaking messes and incompletes, those irritations, those things like the chunk of paint in the wall that you see every time you walk by that needs to be patched or painted, the loose screw. There's a towel bar in the bathroom, right? And one of the anchors was pulled out of the drywall and it sits cattywampus, but it's been like that for 2 years because you walk by, it's there, but you don't get it done. When we learn to step up and manage our messes, irritations, and incompletes, we elevate our sense of worth and ability. Because if we look at that mess and problem, if we get in the car and every time the stupid song comes on, we feel less of ourselves, consciously or unconsciously. A lot of it's happening unconsciously. We feel less of ourselves and lesser about our abilities. We have language toward ourselves that's very condescending, demeaning, down, critical, frustrated, apathetic. Like, imagine thinking about solving world peace if you can't even get Anthem to stop playing in your minivan when you turn it on. And that's separate from the fact you're driving a minivan, okay? No judgment, they're great. You can haul anything in that shit. I might get another one, I don't know. Anyway, you gotta clean up this mess and incomplete. You have to step up and handle your shit. I have so many stories like this. You guys, as much as I'm super type A, driven person, always pushing 90 million miles an hour historically in my life, I'm learning to balance this now. As much as I'm super driven, I have my own absolute list of bullshit that has not been handled in a timely fashion, that has diminished my sense of worth or ability and reaching certain other goals, right? And it's not been until I got the education to understand these things and mastered this in more and more ways all the time. I'm still working on it. We all will be forever. It's never a perfection. How are you, a dog trainer and also a full life coach? Woman, I just always say it's because I'm that screwed up. I think that's the key. All coaches are screwed up. Let me tell you right now, insider tip, okay? They're just teaching what they need to be reminded most. And dog trainers are among the wackoest. I had this conversation with my closest friends numerous times. I just talked about it the other day with my bestie, Mary. And it's just really uncommon to find anyone who is teaching personal development process, leadership development, that's actually put things into practice, is actually doing the work. It's really hard. And that's just because of the human condition, right? That's just human nature. With that said, I have enough integrity, I think, is really the key. I have enough personal sense of responsibility and integrity that where I struggle and fail all the time, I still am highly, highly committed to a really high standard for myself and showing up and doing that work. And then I learn. It's selfish, really, because then I really, really learn and I really benefit because I really get to move forward. So I want that for you guys. And dogs are such an incredible catalyst opportunity for getting this stuff, like for really understanding and getting this stuff and applying it. So you got to get those messes and incompletes, Christina, and this is where I want to go to wrap up that piece of this. Because you haven't fixed your e-collar, I'm pretty darn sure, friend, that you got other shit going on that you haven't handled. I'm pretty sure. I'm confident in saying this is the time. The time is now to decide today, with hearing my words and seeing your own words written out, that you're no longer going to tolerate messes, irritations, and incompletes. You're just not. You're not going to tolerate it because the cost is too high. I think you're able to see the cost now, right? Anyone who's listening to me, whether it's your broken e-collar, song coming on the van, the thing you haven't fixed on the wall, the bill you haven't paid, the conversation you haven't had, whatever it is, go get that shit done. And you have to stop saying yes to everything else in order to make space to get that shit done. You feel me? So these are boundary issues. You see what I'm saying? Boundary issues, because if your plate's too full to not deal with your e-collar and your priorities are off because you're not handling messes, irritations, and incompletes, then your dog sees you, knows who you are, and is saying, I don't have to listen to you. And that, my friends, is uncomfortable for your dog. It's anxiety inducing for your dog. They're not living with a credible leadership. So they're not going to feel relaxed and calm and want to self-soothe and accept the boundaries that you're sharing with them and chill the F out when you say that you need space to finish your messes, irritations, and incompletes. Is this resonating, you guys? I miss when we had hearts on these things. So that's number one, okay? The collar itself tells me that your priorities need today a tweak, that your commitment needs to be renewed or sparked for the first time, that you just make a statement for yourself that you do not allow messes, irritations, and incompletes, and that you start saying no to certain things and clearing space in your life to actually work on that list. That's the only way you're going to get it done, is if you decide, I do that stuff on Wednesdays from this time to this time. And whatever your comeback is going to be about the difficulty to figure that out, stop. For your own sake and your own self-worth, don't do that to yourself. Don't do that. Do not make an excuse. You're better than that. This is not just to the question asker. This is to all of us, right? Because we all freaking do this. Do not make excuses, because that's all that they are. There are no excuses. There are people every day all around the world with far more limitations than you doing far bigger shit. And it's because they decided what's the priority and they learned the skills to make it happen. That's all it is. And you can learn. When you make excuses, you say to yourself unconsciously that you can't learn, and you can. So, Christina, take your focus off the dog and demote her from your consciousness, please. She is not the priority. She can't be the priority. It's making it worse. And every time you have this stacked up consequences of her being obnoxious, I'm looking at the question here, it just compounds on your hyper focus and her energetic experience, emotional experience with you, okay? Now, second thing that stands out, crates in the bedroom. Why? Did anybody catch that with me? Why is the crate in the bedroom? Even if you have an apartment, you have another space. Even if you have a loft, a one bedroom or a loft, get that crate in the bathroom. Get that crate as far away as possible. Far away as possible. So if you were here, Christina, I would be asking you, where do you live? Are you living in a shoebox? Do you have another room? Do you have a laundry room? Do you have a place by the front door? What is the situation here for where you live? Because that crate does not belong in your bedroom. And then it would be a question of, fix the e-collar, obviously, so you can fry this little turd butt. Or, what have you done to correct with the crate, covered, quaked, things like that. I'm sure you've seen our crate video. But, really, truly, you set yourself back because you gave in. It's okay. You're going to get back on track again. I think maybe you just need to hear that. You need some support and encouragement to know that we've all done that. I feel like I'm living that right now. We all go backwards sometimes, but it's not because we haven't made progress. I have an arrow tattooed on my arm for a reason. Can you see that? And it's because I love the symbolism of the arrow. You have to pull it back in order to launch it forward. And I just want to thank you again, Christina, for this question, because as I'm talking to you right now and processing this with you, I'm getting therapized as well and reminded that that is why I have that on my body, because life is full of loading your arrows and then launching them. It's fucking full of it. We're all doing that all the time in some way, shape, or form. You know, we might get a reprieve for 6 months or a year, or we might go 10 years without thinking, you know, shit, there's a wall of mine again. But for the most part, I think we're all playing leapfrog a little bit with loading our arrows and finding that momentum and learning and moving forward and making gains. And then eventually we find ourselves having to load again. So you're going to get back on track, but you need to get off this live stream immediately and go deal with your e-collar. You don't spend another dime on anything else until you fix that, right? Like, you get what I'm saying here with the priorities, yeah? And the no excuses. If you really want this resolved, if you really want to honor all the progress you are making and the person you know you can be who doesn't allow these things to stack up, you need to go get it done right now. And it might even mean you ask for help. If you don't have the resources, literally, you can't afford it, you have other resources you haven't tapped into. But if you're too afraid to be an asshole, like we teach our people in our online community, coaching community, then you're missing out, because people want to help you. They want to support you. I have an extra. I could loan you one while you wait for yours to be shipped to you. Get what I mean? Okay. Love you, friend. Next up, you guys still with me? Appreciate you hanging out if you are. Okay, Sarah, 9-month-old pup, super well trained, e-collar conditioned, rad. Only downfall is resource guarding around bones, typically a dog chew, like a Himalayan yak chew. So polite with other toys, brings them to us when we walk into a room. It's something about a bone and sometimes socks that gets her really tense. She even uses her paws to hold on to it, and it's been a bit snarly. Any tips or drills to practice to make her less insecure? Yeah, absolutely. You have e-collar conditioning already, so teach her to out or drop it or leave it. Drop that motherfucker, whatever you want to do. Teach her a command that she gives it up, and then have another high value resource ready to reward her with immediately. No obedience in between. No, this is not the age for sits and downs and stays and making her do a whole lot of monkey work in order to get it back from you. It's literally as quick as out, she doesn't, you tap to correct firmly, she drops it, yes, you give her something high value immediately, toss it to the side, and then let her have the bone again and repeat. That's a super simple, basic way to improve this process with your dog. A lot of times the resource guarding thing is actually a bit genetic, you know, it's a personality, it's a temperament, certain breeds are more prone to it. But generally I see it as being something that's environmental and relationship based, where when they were bitty and she's still young, if you took things but didn't replace it, or you took things and withheld it for too long, you taught the dog they should guard it, hoard it, possess it, because they don't want to lose it. So maybe just a quick reflection in case that was you guys on some level, but the goal here would be to consciously do the opposite, right? Get that dog clearly explained. What does out mean? We use out command here because it sounds kind of like a bark, and it's very natural for the dog to kind of go, what? And spit the thing out. The way that we teach it is with the dog on a leash or a long line, and we loop it around a table leg, or in our case, we have levers, back ties with levers, big rings that we can put the leash through, so that when we say the out command and apply the e-collar information, low level in the teaching phase, of course, we can pull the leash, which then pulls the dog away from us and the resource. If she's already in a habit and a pattern of being possessive, I want you to teach this on something not a yak chew, okay? Do not teach this on a yak chew. Teach it on the things she's less possessive of. Her food bowl, a toy, a stick, different treats or rewards that you could have that are real food, okay, real fresh food. So teach it with everything but the yak chew. And when you have a really sharp, responsive dog, we have a video on out training with e-collar on our YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure you can go to Hope 2 Canine Foundation on YouTube and go to the e-collar playlist, and you can see how I literally condition the out command with e-collar from the very, very beginning. So once she's solid and understanding that her job is to drop it, leave it, back away, never mind, and you're rewarding immediately with another, my favorites are like Real Meat is the brand, or Ziwi Peak dehydrated meats, and they taste really good. It's like crack for the dog. Or there's a brand that has little dehydrated liver cubes. That's Doggy Crack, okay? So give something in exchange to really make this fun for her, and then let her have the thing that you're outing her from at the end to finish. These sessions are very fast and very short. You don't want to do more than a couple, 3 repetitions, and then you're done. So teach it. Once you have the dog who's like, yeah, I know exactly what that means. You can have it. What do I get instead? Then start doing it with the yak chew. And keep the leash on your dog when you start to do it with the yak chew, so that you have the ability to pick up the leash and not physically get in her intimate face space. Pick up the leash and remove her from the situation and redirect her to get her to give it up, okay? So leave that leash on until you have a solid, reliable, trained dog on an out command. The bottom line is she has to respect when you say that you want something back. It doesn't matter how much she loves and wants to possess it. She has to respect when you say, hey, that's mine, give it back to me. And then we want to be enthusiastically paying and rewarding that dog for doing so, okay? Let me know if this is helpful, or if you have more questions once you get working on it. If April's available, I think she's on the live stream for me now, maybe you could see if you can track down that out video, so that if I'm wrong and it's not there because we lose some content about a year and a half, 2 years ago, then I'll do a video for you, okay? Okay, I'm trying not to go over time here, guys. Matthew asked about table surfing. How do I get my 9-month-old Corgi to stop? I have told her no. I have redirected. She has a kennel she sleeps in. I don't want to make it her punishment. Totally fair. We're going to have to make sure that we ping Matthew here for Instagram question and forward it on through, I guess. So Matthew, similar here, the leash came off too soon. If you guys in general, if you say no to a human even, but there's no consequence, it has no meaning, right? The reason that no becomes valuable and credible is because you follow through on consequences. When I was a kid, it was a spanking or a removal of, something that I wanted, a restriction, right? Grounding, whatever the case may be. Didn't happen very often, but that's how no became valuable. With dogs, it has to have a consequence to follow it up, or it doesn't really have any meaning. So when you think about wanting to stop a behavior, nature corrects. The things that dogs stop doing are the things that suck to do. There's no reward, there's no payoff, there's no reinforcement, or there is a positive punishment, an addition of a punishment, okay? If they stuck their head in a hole in the ground and got bit by a snake, they might stop doing that. They might learn that smell, that odor, that's bad news, don't do that, right? If you think about those of you that have had a dog for a while or raised a puppy, a situation where that puppy maybe inadvertently fell off of something or tried to run out the door and follow you but got shut in the door. I'm just thinking about hypotheticals that I know have actually happened to people. Maybe they're doing something, they're playing, they're just hanging out with you, and you drop something on the ground and it's very scary, it's very startling. That could be perceived as a correction to the puppy, and then they don't want to go in that area anymore, right? So corrections are what decrease the repetition or the likelihood of that behavior showing up again. And your no needs to have an association of a consequence in order to have meaning and credibility with your dog. And a lot of times we'll see sensitive dogs accept just the energy of a no in the beginning, until they become more confident. And that's what you're experiencing here. Corgis are very strong-willed. They can be very pushy. You have a 9-month-old dog. At this stage, exactly, is when most get surrendered to rescues and shelters because they've figured out the system that is your home and your relationship, and whether or not you actually follow through on the thing you say you're going to do. They've figured out how to work around whatever boundaries you think you put in place but aren't actually reinforcing or, have made credible. And they become obnoxious and difficult and unreliable. And you start to see more bad behaviors set in because the dog has developed more confidence, developed more clarity with age. So, Matthew, you got to figure out what is your actual backup for this correction, your actual correction to back up this no. And either the leash has to go back on so you can remove the dog with a leash, or you could try something like a bonker. In this case, it'd probably be extremely effective if you did the bonker method. Not everybody's a fan. I would do it. My own personal dog in this case, if I had a situation like yours and everything was pretty much great except for this issue. The trick is you have to set her up to fail, and you have to be ready with that rolled up towel to say no and then pitch it and bonk her when she's at the table. So she learns that's a no-fly zone. That sucked. Dogs don't like projectiles. It startles and interrupts them. It is likely to make her think twice about doing it again. When she goes to think about the table but doesn't climb up, and praise her, reinforce her. You have options of ways you can condition like that in the absence of something like remote collar training. E-collar training is the easiest way to correct a behavior like this because we can match whatever the dog's intensity is of how committed they are to their cause. But it's not the only option. You could do a scat mat if you want. They get them. We have them for cats or little dogs where it just got a little electrical current. You can set that on the table, and when she pops up on there, it's going to be hot. The kennel doesn't have to be the punishment for this. This is also an area I would encourage you to reframe. If she's out of the kennel and has too much freedom, which she does, then you're, setting her up to fail without being ready to answer the questions that she has about her world. And it means you're not using the crate at the highest level that you could, which is proactively, right? So kennel her unless you're paying attention to her. Do not allow a young dog to be free and unsupervised before they're ready and responsible for it. And think of the kennel as the proactive, safe space for her to avoid making bad decisions and building these bad habits. And she comes out only when you are prepared to interact and supervise and answer to her behavior choices, okay? Last question already. Instagram, again, thank you, Balance Pack. Recommendations for a senior dog losing their hearing. What hand gestures do you recommend or any other insights? I don't think it matters, to be honest. I think that senior dogs that are losing hearing due to age are different than deaf dogs born, without hearing from birth. That was redundant. And it really depends on the dog. Recommendations, let me just talk about some of the things I love about dogs losing their hearing in old age. They're less barky, typically, because they don't hear the doorbell. They don't hear whatever it is that typically would set them off in the past or, sets most dogs off now. And that's awesome, right? The risks that you have to keep into consideration from a safety standpoint, depending on where you live, your environment, making sure that dog's not wandering into something that could be scary for them, dangerous for them. Might have to increase the use of the crate or, a den space, restricted space, something that will allow that dog to be safe and not clueless. So I've gone through this a couple times with senior dogs. A pug, specifically good old Diego, when he was aging and losing his hearing. He actually got bit by a rattlesnake twice, probably because he didn't hear any warning. And pugs can't smell. So, that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about safety and potentially needing to up the structure again. It's almost like, the human evolution process, right? We come into this world bald and pooping our diaper, and we go out oftentimes doing the same thing. The dog, comes into our world needing a lot of management and structure, a lot of advocacy. Puppy development is just a constant investment of a year or two of brutal raising and building. And then, we oftentimes, if we do the work, we get to sit back and relax and enjoy this decade plus of good times together. But then as they decline, a lot of times our world gets restricted again. They can't be involved in the same things. They're dealing with arthritis or, other physical ailments and injuries. They may lose sight or hearing. They may just slow down and overall not feel as good. And they may have become incontinent. There can be these different factors. So this is a season of life that is in part something that you have to accept and appreciate for what it is, instead of how do I make my dog more hearing again? What do I appreciate about his ability to not be influenced by the world around him so much? I think, that may or may not be a part or an element of your experience with this, but it's important to me to mention. It's just sort of intuitively coming to mind. I think the most helpful thing for these guys is electronic collar, again, at low level, or the vibration prompt, where you condition, right, meaning repetition, teaching, you condition that vibration or tone that they can feel means to look for you. And then when they look for you, you have the ability to back that up with your sign language. As somebody who almost became an ASL interpreter for my life's work, I actually know sign language and the proper signs to communicate for various things that we might ask our dog to do, like recalling or placing, staying, downing, sitting, going under something, going in the kennel. You can make up whatever you want, though. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you do. The easiest signs for your dog are the ones you can do one-handed, so that if you have something else going on in your hand, leash, remote, cup of coffee, glass of wine, you can give that indication very quickly and easily and clearly for your dog. But they're very smart and perceptive, and they can pick things up very quickly, provided there isn't any cognitive compromise. And the things that your senior dog are most concerned about are when are they going to eat, and how do they tell you they want to go outside, and being able to be comfy and relaxed and get plenty of Zen space, right? Not have too much chaos around them where they're getting startled in their sleep or whatever. So I would say if you're really motivated, depending on how old this dog is, because again, senior age can start, I think sometimes the vets will say your dog is a senior at like 7 or 8, right? And so if we have a totally fully functioning, physically doing fine, only losing our hearing, you're going to have different needs. And that's where I'm lacking a little bit of information to answer this comprehensively, if that makes sense. If you want to comment and back it up for me with more details, that would be helpful, and I will absolutely address them. In general, I think just read your dog. Let your dog tell you what they need, and try to see this change, this season of life, as a gift also, in a positive light, as something that has its own pros and benefits and kind of a sweetness, if the dog is 10, 12, 14, if we're talking about really what I think of to be a senior dog, I think just tuning out the world allows them to sleep more and chill out and worry less, and they might need a little more structure. They might need a little bit of a shift in how you think about sharing quality time, but you don't have to start a whole new language. You could, certainly teach them that association of the vibration on the remote means look at me, and that way you can recall your dog, or you can, keep them safe. That's the biggest priority that I would have for my senior dogs at this stage. I want to be able to call my dog in and let them know, what's next. And if they see you, that's the main thing. They just need to know to come find you. So gosh, guys, I think that's it. You got real quiet on me. Hopefully all is well here. Again, Stephanie, thanks for the comment. That gave me a good chuckle. And yes, so much of this stuff overlaps with life growth, human growth, leadership development, personal development. It's my favorite part of the job, and it's what takes the most amount of time to share and exchange with our clients and our adopters and community members. And it's very hard, I think, for people to understand from an investment standpoint what that is that's bundled into the dog training work that we do, and that we need to be able to have these conversations and get down to the root issue of why your dog looks at you and says, you're not a safe space for me, or I don't have to listen to you because you don't have your shit together. At the end of the day, it's just a dog, right? We're trying to get to that balance of, not letting it overtake your life, but also showing up fully and completely to the responsibility of being a good leader, which is what our dogs crave above all else. They want to know that, they have a space that accepts them for who they are and gives them support to be who they are, and also that they can trust and respect and follow us. And so everything really kind of comes back to that at the end of the day. But separation anxiety has been a favorite topic of mine for a really long time. It's why, I've created quite a bit of content around it over the years, because to get back to Christina, it stumps a lot of people. It's really difficult for a lot of people, but it's man-made. Dogs don't manifest separation anxiety behaviors in their natural state. They don't have those issues with the pack. And it's because there is such a difference in the languages that we speak and in the intuition of our behavior and our customs, that we need to respect that. We need to adjust for that, because as my buddy Bow Wow Bill says, it's our responsibility to respond and to that knowledge, right? And to their behavior. Darla, I love that. The bonker's been a game changer for many. Yep, element of surprise. It really works for little dogs and for little issues. For bad habits, like the table and being able to sort of wait around the corner and really, create a kapowie, difficult for trainers as well. Yes, Sean, totally. It's really hard for a lot of trainers to be clear in their diagnostics and see the forest through the trees of what their clients might have going on in their life in the background. When I look at Christina's question about her dog, it's like, this is, let me give you I'll come to your question, Hannah, absolutely. I'm going to be really honest with you guys right now, really transparent. When I read this, it's like, okay, fabulous amount of detail to help me answer a question and be thorough, but I also see a person who's way too concerned with their dog, way too concerned about the details, obsessed, anxious themselves, right? So it doesn't surprise me that the feedback they're getting, the reflection they're getting, is that the dog also is anxious and pushy and obsessive, and super stubborn and willful. Because the super stubborn and willful on the human side is this like not getting the shit done that you're supposed to do, right? Do you guys see this? This is so relatable, by the way. It's not a criticism of you being a bad person, Christina. It's just, this is behavior. This is human behavior. And when we can't see it, we make ourselves crazy doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result, and then being pissed that things aren't changing, right? So when I look at this and it's like, you give me so much detail, it tells me a lot about how you're operating. If you were sitting down with a girlfriend, and just hanging out with your family and like, God, this dog and all these things. What I want to see is, I want to see you in executive action. I want to see you in a place of take no shit, right? I want to see you come at me and go, all right, I got the tools in place. I almost gave up, but I didn't, because that's not okay with me. I started to put things in place because it was my first attempt at doing this. I was pretty solid, but then I laxed. And now I know I need to go back and step it up to the next level and be even more consistent going forward, right? I'm not going to screw this up, and let my tools be broken down. I got a backup collar. It was just that important, or a backup battery. And I'm not losing another minute of sleep. This dog is going in the garage. You see what I mean? Like, that's what I want to see from you. I want you to just be like, fuck this. No, this dog needs to go to the furthest corner possible. Now, if you come back and tell me I live in a loft, I have no place to put this dog, cover that, put a fan next to it, turn the fan onto the crate so it's like, there's like no sound the dog's hearing outside. And then talk to me about what you've done to correct the dog in the crate, but still get your tool fixed, right? Call me, borrow one from me, borrow one from a friend, expedite the shipping. Like, all the priorities that have come in front of that are indications of your process, and then you're getting fixated on the details that you already have answers to. But this is also who you are. This is how you operate, right? This is just your stuff. We all have it. So in the case of your stuff, think about where else in your life are things not the way you want them. Because I guarantee you could rattle off easy for me 2 or 3 minimum other areas where you're like, yeah, I'm not making the money I want to make. My job doesn't treat me the way I want to be treated. My family relationship has this or that. There's something going on with a friend. My health, my weight, like, I don't know what it is for you, but look at it, because that's where the magic is going to be. That's where your power is going to come from. And it's incredible when you make that shift and you stop caring about your dog. Literally, stop caring. Stop caring about your dog. Like, screw you, dog. You're over there. I'm going to live my life. I'm not going to allow you to become the center of attention and, take my sleep from me and all that stuff. Just that energy shift is the hardest thing we try to get owners to connect with and do in order to automatically start eliminating certain behaviors. Some behaviors eliminate and go away just like that, okay? It's really, really important that trainers are honest with people about that. Okay, Hannah, do I have time? Absolutely. Elaborate on the creating in the bedroom versus creating elsewhere. Is it a dog or behavior dependent? Why is it a bad idea? Yeah. So this is about, on a very basic primal level, instinctual level, elevated status. It's also about obsessive thoughts and energy and attachment. So you have a little bit of this risk with your dog, right? You have a little bit of this increased risk with your dog. You spend so much time together. You do so many things together. She is an anxious dog. She is a pushy dog. Having her in the bedroom is just that little bit more communication that she has a status or a place in your life that can influence those problematic behaviors. Does that make sense? For somebody who has really bad separation anxiety dog, the destructo dog, the dog that cannot be left, like the history with Christina's dog, that dog should not be in the bedroom. I can't emphasize how much I believe that enough. Should not be in the bedroom, because they're just feeding off each other. Okay. And, by the way, for anybody who has feelings, when I say get your dog out of the bedroom, look at that. Look at that. Why do you have feelings? Why would that be hard for you? Ladies and gentlemen, I would have feelings. I would have feelings about don't have my dog in the bedroom. My dog's in the bedroom. But I don't have the behavior issues. I don't have the consequences that people write me about. So it is a bit dog dependent. It is a bit behavior dependent. But the reality is, hand to God, I would have feelings. I like my dog in there with me. I like my dog sleeping in the bed when possible. That is a comforting, enjoyable aspect of why I have a dog. Not all my dogs, only my close dog, right? So the other dog, I don't care. I don't need her to be there. I don't have that relationship with her. So it's again, this is just about accountability, right? And taking personal responsibility to understand what's going on. If you would have feelings of me telling you, get your dog out of the bedroom, you need to check that. You need to look at that, because that's a contribution of the energy dynamic you're sharing with the animal that's perpetuating some of the stuff you don't like. Does that make sense? Is that helpful? For a lot of you, it's not a problem. The dog doesn't care. Their personality, their temperament, their development, they're indifferent essentially. But for many of you, I can actually think of another client who's a good friend right now whose dogs should not be in the bedroom. They have a lot of issues of leash reactivity, territorial nonsense, anxiety. Those dogs should not be in the bedroom. And it just occurred to me that that's where they are. If they want to make changes, if they want to improve the behavior situation, that's an option for how to help make that better. Get them out of there, demote them, right? And create real, actual separation. That's what you'll do when you move that crate. Real, actual, physical statement of separation. And to the dog, it's like, well, shit, how do I get involved in that? How do I get to be included with them and with that and in there? They're thinking in their own way, in the kennel with those boundaries, in the separate space. It's like, oh, this is very, very clearly you're out of the pack. You're getting a little shunned, if you will. But that's even a bit human projection, emotional nonsense. This is this, let it be a dog. Let the dog be a dog. Sean and I talk about this a lot. She's out in Arizona. If you need anyone in Arizona, guys, trainer that is, or just a rad human being. We talk about this a lot, just the fundamentals, the very natural, basic animal husbandry aspect where people struggle in their dog ownership and how that contributes to the imbalances that we as trainers end up having to speak to and consult on. And they stem from this difficulty for human beings to let that dog be a dog. There are so many brands and other businesses or online groups that are literally named "Let Dogs Be Dogs," right? It's like books people have written that just like get you to get a clue here that this is a predator. It is a primal instinctual being. It is not your lap fluffy puppy pet emotional crutch. And the minute we recognize that we have even a hint of a tendency, let alone a lot of trauma or baggage that we're, putting on that dog, a hint of a tendency to see them as the thing that will make us feel better today, the minute we take responsibility for that, we make their world better and we make our world better, because it starts to promote that personal responsibility I'm talking about in every other area of your life. Okay? It's hard. It's hard work, you guys. It's really hard work. It's not easy to do. It's so much easier. This is also true with training styles. It's so much easier to sell a reinforcement-only training style. Who wouldn't want to just give your dog treats and cookies all day? Who wouldn't? It's so much easier to sell that. Raise your hand if you started with that. Raise your hand if you started with a PetSmart or Petco training and feeding your dog like a Pez dispenser all the time. It's so much easier to sell that. It's so much easier to buy that. Emotionally, that sounds great. Doesn't work. Raise your hand if you started there and you ended up having to find something that was more balanced, more appropriate to sharing consequences and reinforcements to your dog. It's why you're all here right now, because you need both. You need to honor the dog, let the dog be a dog, give the dog a place to be true to itself, right? Outlets, sports, exercise, quality time, socialization, whatever it is. And then you also need to teach it how to live in our fucking weird world where things are not the way they ideally need them to be all the time. Consequences, boundaries, right? Things like a crate, an artificial den that can go with them through their life, no matter where they are or what's going on. Okay, I hit an hour, you guys, and I can feel it. tired, but this was good stuff. Great questions. Hannah, I hope that answered your question for you if you're still here. Somebody pinned it because it's pinned for me and I can't unpin it. Anything else I can answer for you guys, please let me know. Let me see if I can tell from here. Let's see. I'll wrap up here if I don't have any communique. But like I said at the top of the broadcast, no class in March, searching a venue to get into in April. And yeah, Stephanie, whole lifetime of separation anxiety because of it. Oh, here we go. Yeah, updated comments are on Facebook on my phone. Sorry, guys. See if I can do this. Charlie just started humping. Oh, fun. Yeah, e-collar. Yeah, just no thank you. Welcome to the months of struggling to wait before neuter. It's okay, Stephanie. That's why you're in the puppy program. You have a trainer on retainer. Danica, can you talk about firing clients? Ooh, this is fun. Okay, yes, I can spend a few minutes on that if you. So as long as April's okay, I don't want to screw up her day. We have a call, she and I. But I know I have at least 10 minutes. So Danica, this is a good one. Firing clients sucks. We don't want to have to do it. So my first comment about that is to be able to have a good systems and processes in place that you don't have to fire your clients. I hate doing it, honestly. And we had a little conversation this week actually with one of our clients upcoming. And they stepped up to the plate and, want to rectify the situation and still move forward. And I have mad respect for that. And we're looking forward to seeing the contract through without issue. But it has come up a couple times over many years for me. Not many times, but it has come up a couple times. And number one, try to avoid it by having your stuff in order, right? Very clear communication of policies and procedures and expectations and boundaries, and very, very clear. I can't emphasize how explicit you need to be about things. I always say to my team, and this is no disrespect to our clients, but I always say to my team, you have to plan for the lowest common denominator, because we all have our stupid days. We all have our days where our brain is just not firing full cylinders, and some people have it more than others. So there's always going to be dumb questions, I mean, have you said, this may be a stupid question, but, right? We all have those moments where we don't know what we don't know, and we need to ask for clarification on something. And so as a business, it's your job to plan for that. It's your job to plan for the lowest common denominator of silly question or crazy ask or confusing moment or experience, okay? So if you're really upfront and you're really procedures, you're going to cut a lot of this stuff off at the pass. The second piece of this is, don't beat yourself up if you find that you need to let a client go. I think that the underlying guiding principle of growth, right, is that we outgrow and we struggle to keep up with those who are growing. Both things are true, right? As you grow and improve your business, you will outgrow a certain type of potential client. And in some cases, I need to let somebody go, or I need to cancel this contract or fire this, is because you're elevating your sense of worth, your boundaries, your expectations, your standards. And maybe you attracted them in an old version of your business or an old version of you. This is especially evident when it comes to businesses like our industry, where we as a trainer are representative of the brand, right? So you personally, your business will only grow as far as you do. And if you're on that trajectory, as I know you are, Danica, to be a person who takes responsibility for their growth and is constantly looking to improve themselves and elevate how they show up in leadership and the standards that they uphold in their business and their personal life, you're going to outgrow people. So don't beat yourself up. Someone, but it's just not happening now. I think it's extremely important that trainers recognize this is just part of putting yourself out there and being in business. You're not going to please everyone. You're going to have situations where you upset somebody and they're not happy with the services or the results, or you just don't feel like you can coach them. I have definitely had those. They're hard. I have a lot of gratitude for the clients who've hung with me in some sloppy moments where it might have felt like they wanted to fire me or I wanted to fire them. But I also have a lot of respect for the situations where I did have to actually cut things off and part ways and say, this is just not going to work, because that's just life, okay? It's not a failure to be a good trainer or a failure to make everyone happy, because it's just an impossibility, okay? I think that if you didn't put everything in writing up front, if you weren't explicit in your policies and procedures, then you do owe an apology and acknowledgement of that. You do. What most of the time happens is those things are not clear from the get-go, and you're creating friction with somebody who feels let down or not, clear, not that the communication wasn't there. They didn't know that this was a possibility, that they could be fired or they could lose money or sessions. I don't know the details, obviously, because you didn't share specifics. If you have specifics of the situation, feel free to drop them for me so I can speak to them more clearly, but I'm just going to make an assumption here. Most of the time that conflict happens because we weren't explicitly clear. That is a success strategy, a life skill that has to be taught, learned, practiced, and executed on. It's not something most people just show up in the world as, small humans and are great at all. It usually takes work to be conscious of it. Did I explicitly say, this is when it's due, this is when it expires, if this, then that, blah, blah, blah. So if you didn't, own your shit. Take responsibility for that. Own it. Let them know. Hey, I empathize. I get that this is frustrating. I see where I didn't lay it out for you clearly enough, or I see where I maybe moved forward on this contract together when it really wasn't the right fit for both of us. Or this is a situation where, circumstances have changed for me, and I want to honor my responsibility to, the difficulty this may cause for you. Here's what I'd like to come up with. There could be a lot of different ways in which you need to navigate that cancellation of work and contract and partnership with a client. But take responsibility if you didn't lay everything out from the beginning. If you did, if you were explicit, if you planned for that lowest common denominator, as I said, if you were really dumbing down the details and you have that in your policies and procedures signed off on by the client, and you're a good business owner that said, this is how this works, this is what's allowed, this is what's not, if this happens, then this happens, if this doesn't happen, then this happens, then you don't need to apologize. You can empathize, you can let them know, this is hard, I get it, I don't want to have to do it, but it's not the right fit, we're not moving forward. Don't get caught in a battle of justifying why. Just don't do it. You're not responsible for making the decisions, you're watching from the sidelines to see how it unfolds. Okay, well, without the details, obviously I'm giving generalities, and hopefully that's helpful still. You can always ping me if you want some more info privately, and I'll get to it as soon as I can. But, people need to just remember that it's sometimes we don't know until we're in it, right? Sometimes we don't know that it's not going to be a good fit. We're not getting the progress or the success that we originally aimed for. I don't feel, that, like, sometimes I'll say, to the client, I don't feel that you're coachable, and this is not a good use of your time or mine. I want to respect both of those things, right? Again, it's really rare at this stage in the game because strategy is take responsibility and ownership and acknowledge and have empathy for where you failed to set that person up for success and clarity of your expectations, so that it's really easy to cancel the contract and let them go if necessary. When everything's in place, hold on, pardon me. When everything is in place correctly, it's really easy to let people go because you don't get caught up apologizing or justifying. You say, this is how it is. It's all there. It's all in writing. It's all there. Whether it's you were late, you no-showed, you're combative, you're not doing your homework. Again, I'm guessing at this because I'm assuming it's not necessarily a board and train, maybe a one-on-one client, a group class client, I don't know. But if everything's laid out up front, it's like, there it is. It's very clear. And they may still blow up because it seems like the client has already done what we have done. I'm not sure what that means. If everything's explicit and it's very clear, they may still blow up because they're not used to being held accountable, right? That's not your problem. So when you talk about the people pleasing kicking in, I get it. That's an old demon for a lot of people that they have to battle throughout their life. But this is, if you really want to serve this person, you won't enable them in their cutting corners or not showing up fully and completely like they're supposed to, or in being manipulative or taking advantage, whatever. Board and train, didn't learn anything from the midway, dog making progress. Oh, interesting. Yeah. I would need more info. But honestly, I stand by what I shared. I think this definitely comes back to, a contract with a client that maybe shouldn't have been booked at all, wasn't screened well as a right fit for the program, or didn't have things explicitly laid out for their expectations to be appropriate. If you make promises or you are vague in the results that somebody can expect, then you'll get this kind of stuff. So I would have more questions there about what the conversation. My general, feedback and perspective still helps. Okay. I don't know what's going on with that bell. Maybe it's the delivery. Okay. Cool. It's all right, pal. There they all go, everybody. All right, guys. Great questions. Thank you again. I'm definitely going to bounce out now, but please feel free to submit your questions via email. Come here, bud. It's not even your house. Come here. Please feel free to submit your questions to April or myself, april@hopetocanada.com, cameron@hopetocanada.com. You can find us through the website if you forget those email addresses. Shouldn't have taken as a client in the first place. Yeah. So that's not surprising. When if you're going to fire, I mean, like I said, take responsibility and just own it. We shouldn't have booked this to begin with. There were some red flags. Thank you. We're learning. You're learning. Sorry, it wasn't the right fit. Just leave it at that and let it go. That conflict sometimes. All right. Cool. Let me take my big bad guard dog out to see what the hell's going on at the gate, and I'll talk to you guys next week, okay? Take good care. I know, this must be a bad guy. Come here. Come up here and check. Come here. Say goodbye to everybody. Say goodbye. Big bad guard dog. See ya. Ciao.